Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hope you're doing good. Apologies, I'm a few minutes late tonight. The intro song is by James Lucid. It's called Pink Hydrogen, which is a mockery of the nuclear making hydrogen. It's a crazy good song. Still a little frazzled. We got a really good show though, so it typically takes me a minute to get up to crushing speed. I'll show you these pictures at the end of the show, some better pictures. So today I changed the caliper. I tried to put a new caliper on the driver's side, and I can't get the whole caliper off, so I put the front piece on. It works, but take a good look at this picture. Now, when I looked at the passenger side, because there were some noises I was hearing, this is the passenger side. There's four of the wheel, the wheel studs are missing where the nuts go on. So look at the other pictures. See all the studs sticking out? I got four sheared off on the passenger side. Crazy, right? I went out and picked them up today. I'm gonna get them installed tomorrow. But I mean, that is some scary looking stuff right there. I took the old way in from the city. If I had took the highway, I would have crashed. That would have came off. I would have crashed at 100 kilometers an hour on the highway. So I'm very, very lucky I took the old road, which is only, the top speed was 50 kilometers. It's crazy stuff. Some scary stuff, though. I'll show you the rest of the pictures at the end of the show tonight. I'm Dana, by the way. I hope you're doing well, if that's possible anymore on this planet. You can call into these live shows. We're in Canada. That's 709-589 blah, 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 4406. I was just getting the phone out of the case so that I can, in case somebody calls in, right? Because sometimes I forget, and the audio is much better if the phone is not in the case. It's still not bad, but I think it's better anyway. Fukushima is really something, wasn't it? Our digital watches, this is the Navy SEALs in the USS Ronald Reagan. Just to give you context of how insane the doses were, our digital watches stopped working when off the coastline of Fukushima. We were laughing at first. And the stories of the USS Ronald Reagan when he drove through the plume, it really appears they done this on purpose to the sailors. So we got a great show for everybody tonight. Hope everybody's doing really good. Hi, everyone. Hi, Dana. Dana's your moderator. And a very good friend of this event. I'm trying to get the truth out there. Fukushima contaminated water problems are worsened. So you've heard the story of water filtration in Fukushima, right? But let's be rational about it. Let's talk about it for a second, because this is really important. And this was August the 9th, 2014. Fukushima happened March 11th, 2011. So 2014, almost at the end of 2014, they think they have the ALPS decontamination system operational. It wasn't operational until 2015, like mid-2015. So over 4 years after the nuclear meltdown. And this picture was from 2013. This is the ALPS system under construction. So it's they barely got anything there, right? 2013, February. But they acknowledged in 2014, almost at the end of it, that they didn't have the system completed, and they were hoping in the near future to have it completed. It turned out to be 2015, but you couldn't use a water filtration facility because it's not like you're filtering water from a pond or for household use. You're filtering nuclear, and you're talking about multiple sieverts per liter, which means you can never change the filter after 20 minutes. You can't get back inside the building. And that the hoses that are bringing multiple sieverts per liter to the alleged ALPS system, you can't walk alongside of it, let alone step over, without getting a fatal dose. So these are very rotten people we're talking about. They tricked you. They can't filter the water. Everything's been going straight into the Pacific Ocean. And it's not just water. November 18, 2011. So this is the same year as multiple reactors and 8 fuel pools detonated and melted down. We got a poll in it, by the way, before we jump into it. We only got 6 likes. When the show started, we only had 2 likes. It's incredibly a small amount. We have double the votes as we have likes on the video, which is really an absurd number on top of that, because we've been doing this for over a decade. So these are bizarre numbers. We've been censored heavily for the last couple of years in Pacific. Is Fukushima's massive worldwide radioactive fallout behind the mass species and human die-offs? I can't believe I put the word fallout there twice. I gotta use my reading glasses when I'm doing it, I guess. I can only come up with so many excuses for I gotta admit that the only excuses are not using my reading glasses. November 18, 2011. Harvest from farms around Fukushima City was found to be over the government's limit of 500 atoms per kilogram. 500 atoms a kilogram. So Fukushima City in 2011, unclear, which shouldn't exist, by the way, which is UN, and they have no sovereignty over any country on the planet. They're not the authority. They're a military-industrial complex. Fukushima was 229,000 atoms of just cesium-137, and the population was almost 300,000 people. This is per square meter. Like where a kid might stand up and swing and spin around with their arms out. It's a square meter. Every square meter. And we're not acknowledging a single gamma. We're not talking about betas or neutrons or alphas or x-rays, which is insane, which means that there's not a single university on the planet you should consider trusting. There's not a single nuclear academic on the planet you should consider trusting, because they failed everything and everybody on this planet, every species and everybody on this planet. I mean, they picked up 30 million one-ton bags, and they're still growing food in the same year in the nuclear wasteland. What does that tell us? That tells us this industry is completely out of control and is intent on poisoning everybody, and so far succeeding doing it. Harvest from the farms around Fukushima was found to be over the government limit. Now, the limit for the first year, allegedly, was 500 atoms a kilogram. Europe and America raised their limits to 1,000 atoms a kilogram. When Fukushima happened, that's within a week or something. And it almost went under the radar that they done that. Now, the limits for an evacuation zone at a nuclear power plant in 2010 and before was 185 counts per minute. Not 39,000 counts per minute or 14,000 counts per minute or 24,000 or 23,000, but 185 counts per minute per square meter would have been an evacuation zone. Now they leave people in the nuclear wasteland, and you can see them out in the communities. Population is that line over right there. And this is the physical atoms, and they're only acknowledged in cesium. This is absurdness, because the biggest byproduct, and cesium's really bad, don't get me wrong. It pulses energy 600 feet every second. They did pick up 30 million one-ton bags in the farmland and the communities where they wanted people to stay or move back to. 30 million. Each bag was 2,200 pounds. 30 million. And so that's a one-ton bag is all you can put in the back of a one-ton pickup truck. And that would be equal to 30 million one-ton pickup trucks. Bumper to bumper is 5 rows of traffic around the planet. Try to give you some kind of concept of how much we're actually talking about. Harvest from farms around Fukushima City was found to be over the government's limit. Harvesting food from a nuclear wasteland. And this is the degenerate scumbag UNSCLEAR, United Nations, a little monster nuclear idiot machine. Rice grown near the Fukushima plant cleared for sale. This was October 11, 2013. This is 2 years later. I would not dare eat it, the farmer said. We feel guilty about growing it and selling it. I said, do you understand the meaning of D in the word decontamination? We are just tilling deeper and spreading the radioactive radiation thinly. We are not removing the contamination. I'm talking about the farmers feel. No wonder the radiation levels have not gone down. We measured the radioactivity in the air. It has not gone down at all. And I got that video of him. Just give me 1 second to see if I can get lucky. And the only problem with me is I got so much material because we've been at this for so very long, right? And luck would have it, I got it. Boop. And this is an impressive video. Let's play a little bit of it. I'll adjust the volume here because it's in Japanese, so it doesn't really matter.
あと一つ言っておくことがあるんですけれども、福島県は農作物は出荷の前に全部検査しないと出荷できません。今は100ベクレル以下っていうことになってますけれども、農家が生産している私は分かりますよ、これが何ベクレルあるって。放射能要は100ベクレル以下だったら出荷できるわけですから、私は食べませんよ。買って食べる人は放射能メイド持って買って食ってるってどうなの？俺らは分かってんだよ。罪の意識になるの作ってなって。自分は食わねえけど人の人に食わせてんの。
We won't eat it ourselves, but we still sell it. I want to hear what you think about this. I would like you to respond to my questions. That is a stunning revelation. That's 2013. They had dropped the government's limit from 500 atoms a kilogram to 100 atoms a kilogram. me see if I can find it. I know I just seen it there. I think it was at the end, was it? Yeah, no, it was right there. And they're checking it themselves. There's no academics, there's no government agencies, there's no universities, there's no corporations. They're given crappy Geiger counters, probably made by shithead Safecast, scumbag Safecast, degenerate Safecast, mass murderers Safecast, which is an American group of scumbags that showed up there and made a homemade Geiger counters and passed that out, and then used those numbers to quantify moving people back into a nuclear wasteland. And they're a big corporation now. They're on the stock markets. They're doing air filters wherever there's accidents now, selling them. And so that's the worst thing you can put in your house. The government is now considering banning rice sale from Fukushima. Of course, they never did. It's just called damage control. November the 18th. This was almost expected when the government rushed to declare all Fukushima rice to be safe as they tested rice from areas far from the plant yet still in Fukushima Prefecture. It smelled more like a publicity stunt than food testing, and now it's shown that it's just that. It's just a publicity stunt. Beef in Iwaki Prefecture is shown with cesium contamination below the government limit. It's impossible to be below the government limit in Japan. Because in North America, Canada, United States, was 1 million to 10 million atoms of cesium-137 per cubic meter of air. You couldn't get below 100. There is no safe limit. Pre-Fukushima was 0.1 atom per kilogram, not 100 atoms per kilogram. And the Becquerel, the BQ you see, is actually a pulse of energy from an atom. And the atom might pulse energy for millions of years. They call it a decay, but it's the last thing from a decay. It's meant to manipulate you through grammar, see? Very, very slick. Public relation firm is a very lethal entity. The limit of 500 atoms a kilogram. So why was it safe in 2011 but not safe in 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, and forever after? It wasn't safe. And because you had 36 reactor cores basically melt down, and each of them the animosity equivalent of 100 Chernobyls, it's infinitely worse than Chernobyl was. And Chernobyl was brutal. That was brutal. But it's like a paper towel compared to Fukushima's emissions. Perpetual, everyday emissions on top of that. It's still melting down. Citizen groups and certain retailers do their own testing. That's the most frightening statement again, because you don't... Like the farmers were told, on top of that, to mix their radioactive product with product that wasn't as radioactive. It was still radioactive, but wasn't as radioactive as their highly radioactive stuff, and get the numbers down. And they were given Geiger counters. You got to be really careful with Geiger counters. If you turn it on, turn it off, turn it on again, it's not going to work properly. You got to let it sit for a minute or 2 minutes before you turn it back on. If you accidentally turn it off, right? You got to wait. And if you give it a high exposure, it won't work properly. You need to send it back to the manufacturer to have it recalibrated. And so giving Geiger counters to farmers was literally genocide. That was a genocide move. And we see the results now worldwide. Mass heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline problems. There's nowhere anyway on the planet now that you can go, you're not going to be eating radioactive, anthropogenic man-made radioactive food. And there's nothing on the planet that has an autoimmune trigger to defend against it. Your immune system attacks it every second for the rest of your life. And does that by attacking it with white blood cells perpetually. And for every white blood cell you produce, you stop making a red blood cell, which carries oxygen and nutrition. applicable to every species: birds, insects, animals, mammals. Rumors still blamed from Fukushima food problems. Rumor. I mean, they picked up 30 million one-ton bags. How is it a rumor? It's insane that every time I see the word rumor, I'm frightened to death. Just bear with me. Fukushima radioactive fallout was circling the globe every 40 days. We're talking about like 220 million atoms per liter of rainfall in North America. A Canadian study of Ottawa, of iodine-129, for instance. There's many studies. I covered a whole bunch of them last night, actually, at the beginning of the show. If you're not familiar with this, that's a really important video for you. Harmful rumor. I'm surprised you didn't put a S on that, right? Harmful rumor. The reactors are still melting down today, still hammering radiation, massive plumes out of it all day. Harmful rumor is still being blamed for economic problems among food producers in Fukushima. Food producers in a nuclear wasteland. Literally the worst words you would ever hear is producing food in a nuclear wasteland. They turned all the academics worldwide turned their back on you immediately. The government continues to blame rumors. The academic community did speak out, because we do have headlines from the original first couple of years, but then they went dark after that. The government considered 100 atoms a kilogram to be acceptable levels. That's 2013. But 2011, it was 500 atoms a kilogram. These are absurd numbers. There is no acceptable level. There is no safe level, and there is no acceptable level. It's man-made radiation. The original charters of the nuclear corporation was not a single atom would get off the site. That was the only reason they were allowed to build nuclear power plants. And so the minute you take the fuel out of the reactor core where it's contained and put it in the fuel pool, there's no containment. And the fuel for a million years is still splitting atoms. So it split atoms at a prolific amount to boil water to power 1 million homes and businesses. When you take it out, it's still splitting those atoms. There's no containment. That's why almost all nuclear power plants are surrounded with farms. And that is the most frightening, terrifying, horrifying statement conceivable, that is happening. And it's happening at 1,000 fuel pools worldwide are splitting atoms at a phenomenal, like, you can't actually, if I show you an equation, and I'm not suggesting that you're stupid or naive or anything, but if I show you the equation of how many atoms they're splitting just a minute from a single fuel pool, you won't understand what it is, unless you're a physicist or something. Because we're talking about so much. And all of that is released directly into the environment up tall, skinny stacks at nuclear power plants. So we are in real trouble. We need to stop this industry at all costs. And retroactively deal with everything that's ever been released into the environment worldwide. Now, they dumped it into the oceans. The British in particular were brutal, just brutal monsters. They dumped the fuel into the ocean for 30 years. They had freighters designed just to go out, and the freighters never stopped anywhere. They not like they stopped and dumped it all in that one spot. They drove all around on the continental shelf, throwing huge barrels overboard. The barrels didn't sink. They shot them so they would sink. And when the barrels are sinking, of course, every 33 feet there's an extra atmospheric pressure, 14.5 pounds per square inch or so. So by the time they get down to 100 feet, the barrels will collapse. And the laws of this industry are There's nothing else on the industry. There is no other industry that compares to the relentless lies from this industry. There's not a single story that's not full of brutal lies. We're supposed to get another, between now and Saturday, 36 centimeters of snow. And we had brutal rain here tonight, by the way. And the temperature came up today. That's why I was out working on the truck. And the moral is going to be minus 14. And I got to go and put the studs in the wheel on the passenger side. Because that night tomorrow night it's going to start snowing heavily. So it's a bit of a rough day. I had a good day, mind you. We got it accomplished. But my hands were so numb tonight. I had to take a couple of aspirins about a half an hour before the show went live. Otherwise, probably couldn't have done a show. Because I'm busted up. I got busted up when I was really young. The public wants no radiation contamination in their food. It's a crime not to want to be poisoned, apparently. And distrust the degenerate government system is either inaccurate or too high. No, it's neither. It's just monsters. Purposely poisoning everybody, particularly children. Even though some foods are testing with no contamination at all in certain parts of a nuclear wasteland, the public isn't buying. Like there's nothing, and they're allegedly testing for cesium-137. That's it. They're not testing for plutonium or americium or neptunium or strontium or 1,000 other fission products. And the biggest byproduct of the radiated fuel rod is curium isotopes. Excuse me. Hey, Thinker, I had to block you again. Sorry. Because you keep sending me like YouTube videos, but I'll get it 6, 7, 8, 9 times. What you got to do is look at your apps and see which one got access to your YouTube and try to block it or something. Because one of your apps took over your phone is what's going on. And so I'll wait a few days and then I'll unblock you again. My apologies for blocking you, but I can't handle the phone. Blip, blip, blip. And have you heard my phone go off with tweets when I get a message rather? It's meant to get my attention, but when it gets my attention over and over and over for a minute or two, right? I know it's not your fault. I'm not blaming you. Let's go back to the story. The public No, I know it's not you, Tinker. I'm not saying it's you, my man. I'm just saying that you might be able to fix it. Just go check your apps and see which one's got access to your YouTube, right? And try blocking it for a little while. If you don't need it, just block it anyway. And that might resolve it for you. No worries. I don't care about you sending me videos. I'm not saying that. It's just when you say the same video shows up 8 or 9 times in a row, it's obviously one of your apps have taken over your phone on you, that's all. Even though some foods are tested with no contamination at all in certain parts of Fukushima, you know, the part that's on the moon, right? There's nowhere in Fukushima. Like, Fukushima is there's not a single organism in Fukushima that's not contaminated. The excrements from worms is at almost 1.4 million atoms per kilogram from just worm feces. There's nowhere in Fukushima. There's literally nowhere in Fukushima that's safe. And we covered a terrifying story last night of the government trying to move children in particular back into Fukushima, which is 2 kilometers away from ongoing nuclear meltdowns, the worst nuclear spot imaginable. I mean, this industry deserves everybody's contempt. The world needs to correct what's going on here. Sitting in silence is the biggest mistake we're ever going to make. We are exterminating everything now. Harmful rumors. I can't even hear that word anymore without thinking about James Lewis because he uses it so often, so appropriately, right? Who, by the way, donated $700 last night, my goodness. And had donated $300 on Wednesday of last week that I forgot to mention. I was gobsmacked when I seen that. I was like, oh shit. I get some stuff done now, man. I'll show you some of that coming up. I guess I'm going to start ordering in a bunch of stuff. I was out busting my ass on a truck today. I'll show you the rest of the pictures. I showed you some at the beginning, but I'll show you the rest at the end of the show tonight. Hopefully I'll remember. And a little video. It just blew my mind that I broke off 4 wheel studs on the passenger side. I'm just so lucky I didn't wreck the truck on the highway, right? Well, I wasn't on the highways, rather. I took the old route out of the city. I had to go into the city the weekend. The root of this may be the distrust built over the last 2 years through repeated government assurances of safety, only to later find out a product was actually contaminated and needed to be recalled. Finding out 2 years later that something was contaminated. This contamination is 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. 2 billion times. And when it gets in your body, it's a trillion times worse than it is outside your body. The doses, because it's pulse and energy almost at the speed of light every second, right? I'm hoping James got another song for us tonight. Just give me a second here. Yeah, I'm pretty busted up from today. I've been at this. I'm out every day in nasty weather because I'm stupid, or I'm trying to build up my tolerance, or I just got to get shit done, and that's the only way I can get it done. Okay, I just unblocked you that time, Tinker. Good luck, buddy. I don't take the phone outdoors with me, and I typically don't take it in the truck with me. So if you call me, you don't get me. I might call you back later, but I don't have the phone out there with me. And it's just a rule of thumb because it's a distraction, right? You can't get nothing done when you got the phone with you. Here we go. The government also pushed 500 atoms per kilogram food is safe while badgering consumers to buy it. Harmful rumors. Still being blamed for economic problems among food producers in a nuclear wasteland. We are making such a mistake. We need hundreds of people doing what I'm doing. And it doesn't matter if you don't know nothing about this subject, right? You can just take some of the stuff I got here, or go to my playlist. I got 100 at least less than 1 minute videos in my shorts. You can just re-upload them everywhere on Facebook or any other sites. Just go find websites and just start uploading my little videos, 1 a day or 1 a week or 2 a day or 5 a week or something like that, right? And just, you don't have to put my name on it or anything like that. Just get this conversation started. I've done everything I thought would work, and here we are, 13 years down the road. You know, I had 6 years of research expeditions. I thought for sure that would make a difference. The government efforts may have actually made the problem worse and potentially a permanent situation. Potentially. Nuclear meltdowns are forever. I mean, he picked up 30 million one-ton bags in a nuclear wasteland. That means this is forever. The few products that are being sold are being diverted into processed food in restaurants because nobody will buy it. So they trick you. The 7-Elevens, the restaurants where all the tourists are going, that's who they're feeding it. They had over 30 million tourists last year. It was a record in their history. And it wasn't an accident either, right? There's been a $1 billion campaign each year to bring people into the nuclear wasteland to eat the radioactive food. We're living in a genocide, and Fukushima is a disease factory. And just like 14 prefectures, the food was allegedly banned by 55 countries for a decade because of the radiation from the nuclear meltdowns. But each of these prefectures produce around 1 billion pounds of rice and other food, and they ship it worldwide. And particularly Canada. Canada had no restrictions. They removed any restrictions they did have. They removed it after the first 93 days. Well, 55 countries banned it for a decade, but not Canada. So everybody in Canada, and I seen RFK yesterday, was it? He was saying he can cure diabetes in America by giving everybody organic meals 3 times a day. And he said 74% of the Americans are obese. And after Fukushima, in the first year, half of the Japanese, the obesity rate's almost doubled in Japan, which is a marker of radiation brain damage. And that the anthropogenic pollution from industries and automobiles and stuff is added to the Americans' indexes in California, for instance, because the pollution is known to come across the Trans-Pacific Corridor. And these are huge particles compared to anthropogenic man-made radioactive fallout. And so these big particles, if they can come over to North America and add to the pollution indexes for months at a time, then 100% the radioactive fallout is a breeze for it to get there. And of course, California is the breadbasket for a lot of America and Canadians. Cream-filled pastries. Dana. Scary. Contaminated food in the news, June the 15th and the 16th, 2011. Now, I really love these headlines. This is 2011. I love all this stuff because that's the original headlines. That's the most important headlines, and they love attacking me for using those headlines. They're like, oh, they're old headlines. What are you showing them for? Well, because that's the story, stupid. They don't want you to talk about anything in history when it comes to nuclear, but they want you to talk about everything in history when it comes to everything else. These are really disgusting people that does that, right? Yeah, all the crabs. There's 10 billion crabs missing in Alaska. That's 4 times more crabs than was harvested in Alaska combined. They're gone. It's the industry. The bottom fell out. Was it last year, 2024, late 2023? They don't know where it goes. But of course, radiation will settle on the ocean floor where all the crabs are too. And then the crabs are eating, dead shrimp and dead krill and dead this and dead that was highly contaminated with radioactive fallout, the phytoplankton and stuff like that sinks to the ocean floor. And so the crabs bioaccumulate a massive amount of radiation. Piecemeal radiation testing heightens concerns over safety of food. Piecemeal. 350,000 atoms a kilogram rice straw per kilogram. Per kilogram. Yeah, like Dana says, he told people some of the crabs were gone. They didn't believe him. But we actually have the headlines, the stories, and there's a lot of them, right? It was a big story when it happened. Let me see here. 350,000. Oh, I got to bring that up, have I? $350,000. So you got to multiply that per kilogram by 66.6. Can't make that one up. To get a square meter, which is 23 million. 185, not 185,000 or 1,850 or 1.8 million, but 185, like the age of an old turtle. 185 was an evacuation zone for a nuclear plant per square meter. Now 23 million atoms per square meter is just fine. Suggesting that there's only 220 becquerel. Again, you see the word they're using, cesium. The biggest byproduct of radiated fuel rod is not cesium. It's nasty, well, don't get me wrong, but it is the curium isotopes. Rice straw from the spring has tested and found to have as high as 350,000 atoms a kilogram. Rice straws. Well, then the rice is going to be ridiculously brutal, because if they acknowledge that, then you can do a mathematical equation, extrapolate, horrifying other numbers that they're not acknowledging. And this is them, right? They poison you, they rake in the money and poison you, and they laugh about it. Much of what was testing it was over 100,000 atoms a kilogram. All of it was found in Tochigi Prefecture. So wherever they looked in Tochigi Prefecture was a nuclear wasteland. Big surprise, right? This extremely high finding shows how the cesium beef outbreak of the summer happened. It was 180,000 children ate hideously contaminated beef. In the first year there was 865,000 extra cancers. And when there used to be 1 in a million children with thyroid tumors of around 2 centimeters, which is the size of the thyroid of a child, it jumped to 13,646 out of 38,000, which is, I think it was 36.9% or something. It was almost 370,000 out of a million children with thyroid tumors of around 2 centimeters. And the problem with the thyroid tumor is the thyroid produces hormones. And so when you throw a tumor in that, oh yeah, the CIA's covered up, Joel. Lots of nuclear meltdowns, that's for sure. Okay, I gotta start paying attention here, because I'm much of what was tested was over 100,000 atoms a kilogram, all in the Tochigi prefectures. It shows how one seemingly minor mistake, this is not a minor mistake, this is a catastrophic genocide. This is genocide, right? So radiation poisoning, you can't describe that as a mistake, you describe it as a homicide. It can have incredible consequences for the food supply and farmers. Well, who eats food? I don't eat none. Do you eat any? Everybody eats food. There's still no plan for disposal of all this rice straw. God, he just turned it into sake, I guess. Rice in Date City was found to be contaminated with cesium, some as high as 550 atoms a kilogram. Again, every time I hear the word cesium, I want to push a nuclear scientist down a set of stairs or something, you know what I mean? This will kill you eventually. You will die. Everybody that consumes it will eventually die from that exposure. It will destroy your health. By the way, Fukushima Daiichi flooded out the generators 20 years before the tsunami in 2011 hit. How interesting is that? Back to the madness. Experimental zero light rice paddy project in Date City. Date City is a brutal, sadistic nuclear wasteland. December 9, 2011. An experimental project to determine if spraying zero light and potassium onto the rice fields will aid in the prevention of cesium absorption. And so, let's say it does stop cesium from being absorbed into the food. It's not going to stop uranium and plutonium and americium and neptunium and strontium and the curium isotopes, the iodines, the thousand of other fission products. And second off, the idea of framing a narrative and using the word cesium over and over and over is the average person has no concept of all of the stuff that we know and that you're learning about if this is your first time here. You can't spray, and they've done this in Chernobyl. We covered it many, many times. You can go into my videos and look up Chernobyl anniversary, where I show you hundreds of studies, and many of them are where they're putting potassium in farmers' fields and saying that mitigates radioactive fallout. I mean, this is insane that the industry does this. This is how confident they are that the world is literally stupid, right? I shouldn't use that word, I suppose. Ignorant. A lot of people get offended when you use the word stupid. But it's just a word, right? It's another word for complacent or never mind. Let's keep going. It's just will take a chainsaw and chop up the people you're feeding the food to, because you're going to kill them anyway. But dying of radiation poisoning is a brutal, long die. This is brutal too, but I would rather die of a chainsaw than die of radiation poisoning. The zero light is intended to absorb the cesium and potassium to provide the plants with a safe source of minerals. It doesn't work that way. There's no science to that narrative right there. But we've seen actually academic studies where they come out and pretend that this works. It can't work that way. So for every cesium 137, there's 100 times strontium 90 produced. Like, it's insane. This is the definition of insane that somebody would even suggest it, let alone print it, let alone produce academic studies alleging that this worked. It's insane. It's like, just say you got 5 kids, and you're at the park with your 5 kids, and this random person walks up to you with a lab coat on and says that they're a professor. And they got a gun in their hand and they said, look, I'm an academic, so I'm going to shoot your kids. I want you to trust me. And the bullets won't kill them because I'm a professor. That's the equivalent. But except with a bullet, it's going to kill the kid right away. The radiation won't happen for a few years. But there's no different in the crime, except the crime is much bigger, because a bullet can't do the same damage as a farmer's field can. And every time I see a study where they make these assertions like this, I know why. I know why I'm here every day that I can be, right? I'm here every day because, God help us that this is actually normal. They do this. They're so confident that they can't be held accountable. It's not illegal to poison you with radiation, by the way. The Congress and your parliaments don't have the authority. The government doesn't have the authority to make it illegal to poison you. Only the non-regulatory commissions, the nuclear regulatory commissions, have the authority to make it illegal to poison you with anthropogenic man-made radiation. And if you do that, then they can't poison your loved ones in the hospitals and kill them and maim them with radiation. And the word radiation therapy should be defined as a crime. There's no such thing as a radiation therapy. If you're lucky enough to destroy one tumor, they're going to end up with 7, 8, or 10 more. And the thing that gave them the tumor in the first place was radioactive fallout or consuming food from a nuclear wasteland. And every nuclear power plant is a nuclear wasteland within 500 or 600 miles. And typically, if you're in a satellite looking down on a nuclear plant, it's hard to spot the plant because it's all farmers' fields as far as you can see. The story is actually insane. This story is actually insane. That's the madness of this story, is calling these people insane will make them giggle. They know they're insane. That's how come they get the job. If they got the job, it's because they're insane mass murderers. And they make a Pol Pot and Mao and dictators like that look insignificant with the genocide that they create. And it's such a difficult subject. And this is why they frame, like in Fukushima, they only study external doses. They don't study internal doses. Just external doses. You picked up 30 million one-ton bags, not because of internal problems, but because of external problems. Not because of external, but internal problems, right? How did they end up right there? I wonder. Hang on a second, I screwed up. Those pictures I showed at the beginning for you. I just want to show you that because I'm silly sometimes. There we go. Hinkley Point C. That's a new nuclear plant they're building in the United Kingdom. Look at it surrounded by farms. But when you look at it from a satellite, what do you see? Now there's a Hinkley Point. There's that's the old Hinkley Point. There's the new one, right? So for 60 years they've been poisoning all of these farms. But every nuclear power plant you look at is doing the same thing. And they call it carbon free. I'm confused by that. They don't really give you a full picture of the site. But how much electricity does it take to run all of this just to build it for 2 decades? And that each reactor needs 4,500 tons a minute of water. It's equal to 4,500 one-ton pickup trucks driving past your front door every minute for 60 years. So trying to cross the street when there's 4,500 one-ton pickup trucks driving past your house every minute. It's like 74 a second or something driving past your front door. All right, here we go. The idea being if the potassium is there, that the plants may take that in rather than the cesium. It doesn't work that way. And people that do it, they should be in a dungeon for the rest of their lives. They don't have a single human attribute to do something like that. 6 in 10 Fukushima children tested have diabetes because it's not like a banana. It's not like a potato chip. It's not like walking in sunshine. And you'd be surprised. Like the farmers will go back into a nuclear wasteland because they simply don't understand what nuclear is. The consumers, if you were in Japan and you know what nuclear is, you left Japan. If you were educated, and that's what happened to quite a few million people, they left Japan immediately. The Americans, the British, the Australians, the Swiss, the French governments were all sending their airplanes to extract their citizens because they couldn't book a flight editor because every flight was booked by the rich and the wealthy, right? They were getting out of, and which was the right thing to do. It's a nuclear wasteland, and pretending and poisoning everybody means they're your enemy. That makes them your enemy, and you better take that serious. These are your enemies. The idea being that potassium is there, the plants may take that in. That's not an idea. That's criminal to suggest that is possible. That the plants are going to choose between anthropogenic, man-made, massive radioactive fallout and potassium. So let's say you got 10 tubs. One's filled up with water, one's filled up with beer, one's filled up with Javex, one's filled up with whatever, right? Oil, or one's filled up with horse shit and water, whatever. And a professor comes up and says, you can put your laundry in the water and it'll soak up water. But if you put it in Javex, it won't soak up the Javex. If you put it in the oil, your clothing won't soak up the oil. If you put your clothing in horse manure mixed with water, it won't soak that up. It'll be perfectly fine. And your response will be like, shut up, stupid. Yeah, that's the stupidest professor you ever met, right? Because that's something that you can appreciate. You can wrap your mind around that, right? Yes. But you can put 500 million or 200 million atoms on the head of a needle, you can't see it. And I got a good idea, actually. Hang on. Let's go back to there. The idea being that potassium is there, the plants will take that in. Hang on here. We'll get there. Da, 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 da. I gotta do this fast. Did I get lucky this time? Here we go. Take me a second. I'll get it for you. I got it. I just smurfed. I clicked the wrong one. It'll take me a second. There we go. All right. Might as well go all in. We're going to do it. Might as well go for it. Here we go. Might take a minute. Please have your tickets ready for when the conductor comes here to check them. That's a sadistic trick. Okay. So every nuclear power plant, except for a few, are surrounded by farms as far as you can see. And that's on purpose. It's meant to poison you. And the reason I say that is because they got endless amount of studies knowing that the plants are the perfect thing for finding out if there's radiation in an area because the plants will suck it up. They got endless studies. So they know grapevines are going to suck up all the radiation. They know strawberries are going to suck up all the radiation. accumulation of radionuclides by plants is a monitoring system because it doesn't choose between potassium and cesium. It doesn't. Cesium acts just like potassium, see? Foliage and root uptakes of cesium, strontium, zirconium, and tomatoes, and potatoes, and whatever fruit trees, or whatever else you want to talk about. Any kind of plant, any foliage, any flora, any fauna will suck up radiation. Wheat. And that's why, and you know this, and they got millions of studies like that, and that's why every nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms. It's meant to poison you. It's on purpose. It's engineered into the design. Every nuclear power plant, as far as you can see, is going to be surrounded by farms because they love you so much. They love to kill you so much. Why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms? I don't think I need to answer that question now, do I? And the harm from radiation is epic. Irreversible heart damage for children with 50 atoms a kilogram. You put 200 million atoms on the head of a needle, you can't see it. How are you going to protect your child? Like I say, see those markers over there? That was from a story. I put the markers there to highlight the prefectures, the 14 prefectures where the food was banned by 55 countries for a decade because the food sucks up the radiation. But it shows you how insane, and like, look at these pictures, this real picture. This is from the media, Japanese major media, showing a farmer harvesting food right alongside the nuclear meltdowns with thousands and thousands of one-ton bags right alongside of them of radiation fallout. And so they condition people because a lot of people are so complacent. And there's nobody to hold the industry accountable. You're it. Tag, you're it. The only hope that humanity has is that you speak out. So the idea being the potassium is there, the plants may take that in rather than... Now the studies that the Japanese do to quantify moving people back into a nuclear wasteland the never-ending madness, the stories of never-ending madness. But I'm showing you the legacy headlines because they're so important. So this was a study came out a few weeks ago. We covered it. When I done a word search on it, for internal, I got no matches. When I done a word search for external, I had 46 matches. So the whole study was based on natural radiation, no man-made whatsoever, and it was based on external doses. And that study was used by the government to quantify grown food and shipping it to your countries and to move the vulnerable of society back into the nuclear wasteland. And that the only isotopes they were looking for were natural ones. I think it's striking that a society and an individual external exposures, it was really something, was validated environmental radiation, but it was based upon natural radiation and it was based upon external doses in a nuclear wasteland where they picked up 30 million one-ton bags. What do we got here? Belarus, radiation checks in Japan is only 1% of what the Belarus checked in the past year. Japan's not checking. They're not checking. And they quote cesium. And cesium will actually get drowned out. The signal will get drowned out by the curium isotope signal and plutonium signal. Cesium does pulse energy 600 feet, man, yeah. Excessive cesium was found in greenhouse-grown mushrooms from Soma, Fukushima. Excessive. Well, there is no safe limit. A single atom will eventually cause a tumor in your body from the man-made anthropogenic radioactive fallout. And the mushrooms were already sent to markets in the prefectures. Let me go back to that 1 second. In Soma. The farmers are checking it themselves. It's the opposite of what a society would do. What's the point of having universities and nuclear companies if you're not going to use them when it's appropriate? It's like your water is contaminated. And so what you do, you collect a bunch of samples and you send it down to India to somebody that makes kettles and asks them to check the sample for you. That's the equivalent. Fukushima fallout found in California soil. You wouldn't believe how much was actually found in America. It was absurd. And Canada. It was absurd. Complete results were found at Berkeley. Oh, that's right. No, sorry, that page is gone. U.S. nuclear plants are leaking radioactive. All nuclear plants, not just Americans, but Canadians everywhere, worldwide, are hemorrhaging tritium 3H with 120-year 120-year lifespan. The Canadians are the CANDU reactors are disgusting. It's disgusting. Point Lepereur in New Brunswick, Canada, in the Bay of Fundy, with a 50-foot tide exchange. One of the biggest breeding grounds for scallops on the planet, poisoning everybody worldwide, is 14,800,000 trillion atoms are legally released each year because you can't contain the tritium 3H, which in any other circumstance would be described as a massive nuclear accident. And so if that's what they're legally are releasing, you can be sure it's hundreds of times worse than that. At a recent Nuclear Regulatory Commission, we call them non-regulatory commissions, meeting, because they don't regulate anything, they're rubber stamp committees, meeting, a Georgia nuclear watchdog group said that the contaminated water that was, they said leaking out of a nuclear plant so fast it raised the level in a nearby well by 5 feet. When your well level's raised by 5 feet, and the well is used for drinking, by the way, when you raise the levels in the farmers' wells by 5 feet, that's not a leak. And you won't hear of any emissions from a plant where they don't call it a leak. They'll call it a leak. There's 100 trillion billion gallons leaked. And then everybody like, oh, it leaked. Oh, it's not so bad, it's a leak. Not like it was hemorrhaging or flooding, Dan. It was a leak. Oh, you're right. Give me one of those hot peppers, the hottest peppers in the world, so I can stick one up each of my nose. Because that's what it's like. When you talk to the nuclear industry, it's just as well to... never mind, I'm not going to say it. San Onofre's solution to the tritium-contaminated water. Isn't that contaminated water? This is hideous, monstrous, deadly radioactive fallout. Is dump it in the Pacific Ocean. All plants do it. And because there's no opposition, they're legally allowed to do it. Unit 4, Reactor 4, October the 30th, 2011. I got a great story here. Unit 4 still poses considerable risk. Experts call for independent safety inspections. So, they rolled out the independent media. You got ABC Australia, Cecilia Vega, CNN. You have BBC, Rupert Winfield Hayes, CBS set Dorn as a fraction of them, independent media, and they're telling you that they're 150 feet above the stump of the melted Reactor 4 building. And right alongside of it was Medusa, Reactor 3, the plutonium mixed oxide reactor. My Geiger count was over 300 counts per minute this evening. A Canadian nuclear expert is calling for an independent review. A Canadian nuclear expert. And this was 2011. And they got a link there. Independent review to Unit 4. So we went to the link, of course, that's gone. Well, there's Reactor 4. It should look like this, 190 feet tall. 190 feet tall, 65 meters. 19-story building. 19-story building. "185 counts per minute on the screen was an evacuation zone at a nuclear plant for a square meter. It means I should abandon my house here right now if this was 14 years ago. So the building to your left officially that never happened. The official story is, and when you look at it up close, how much do you think is left inside the building? Now be honest in the comment section. Let me get the comment section up here. Where are you two comments? Here we go. So how many people think that building is intact inside there, this Reactor 4? Because officially Reactor 4, as the media told you, absolutely positively didn't melt down. So they put a cover over it. It looks like that there. Look at all that debris alongside of it. And you won't see this. You won't see these pictures anywhere else, by the way. And what happened was in 2015, 2016, I can't remember. 2015, I think it was. There was this picture came out, very high quality picture. And at that time, you can download any picture from Japanese media. And there was this very, very, very high quality picture that came out of the site. And I was able to zoom in. I was like, holy shit, look how big when I tried to download it, it was a huge file. So I was able to zoom right in and extrapolate these pictures. And there's nobody else on the planet that has these pictures. This is the only site you're ever going to see with these pictures. It was amazing to be able to extrapolate those types of pictures. But Reactor 3, you can zoom in with any picture, or Reactor 4. That's Reactor 4. But here's what it looks like underneath it. Now, the structure doesn't physically touch the building, because clearly it's too fragile to hold any weight. And this is what it looks like when you move back away from it. But the official story is that never happened. Now, why would they come out with all the media pretend that they're at the top of a building that doesn't exist? What could be the catalyst for that, I wonder? I don't think people are stupid at all. I think when you give them the documentation and ask a simple question, they're going to give you the right answer. You don't need to give them the answer. Well, one of the solutions is revenge. An independent review of Unit 4 at Fukushima Daiichi, where inspectors from outside Japan could do a safety analyst. Oh, like that. That's Seth Dorn, CBS's PBS2, Seth Dorn, the senator's son, pretending he's at the top of this building that doesn't exist. We haven't played that video for quite some time, have we? Just hang on, see if I can dig up get the video back in my archives, because everybody hates that. Played that so many times. They're like, no, Dana, don't play that video ever again. I thought we all agreed you never play the video again, Dana. I know, but isn't it so much better when you hear it from the pig's mouth itself? Maybe you'll be lucky I can't find it. Give me 2 more tries. I got 2 more folders. If I don't find it, but like we always use that video, so it's just where I had to transfer everything on new hard drives, right? Because it's madness, right? Almost. Let me try again. Oh, I got no hopes of finding that. So the best thing for me to do is yeah, the only problem I got is I got too much. So let me try one more trick up my sleeve here. Not looking good for us. Sometimes I'll click on a folder and I got so many folders and I don't even recognize them. I'm like, oh crap, and then it strikes me. Oh shit, I forgot all about all of this stuff. That's usually when I get really depressed. I can show you individual videos, but where's the fun in that? One more time. Reactor 4. Like, how can I not have that video right in front of me? That's it, I gotta stay up all night tonight and find that video now. I still can't find it. I'm an idiot. That's because I'm an idiot, I guess. Let me try one more try. Reactor 4. We'll get the phone book. I'll get the whole phone book now, because you put in Reactor 4 on my computer and it's going to be hellish. I'm determined to find it now, though. I don't care if it takes all night. I'm going to find it. Huh. Hello, what do we got here? Alright. I'll turn the volume down a little bit. I'm going to duck out of here. I'm going to let this video play. This is just a fraction of media saying they're at the top of the building, 190 feet above the building. This might not be a high quality one, though.
Where I'm standing is on top of what used to be reactor building number 4. The whole of this building was blown apart by a huge explosion.
We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled during the earthquake and tsunami of 2011.
Of the decommissioning work taking place here in Reactor 4.
At the end of our tour, we were checked for radiation exposure. In 4 hours, I received the equivalent of less than a chest x-ray.
1,500 highly radioactive fuel rods inside this pool. They've got to move them outside of this reactor.
These people are insane. That's insane. When you got media, that's just a fraction of them, claiming they're 150 feet above the stump, a nuclear meltdown, no less, to your left. in thin air. Because this is an extinction event, right? He cites a similar process used in Canada to have U.S. experts do an independent review of facilities to ensure there's no bias involved. Of course, you've seen all that. So that's reactor 4. That's the cover they put on it. And it doesn't physically touch the building, as you can see. And there's nothing above it. You can't physically go up there, like they're claiming. You can't go up there because you got a nuclear meltdown underneath it and on each side of it. And maybe one right behind it. Currently, the safety of Unit 4 relies on the promises from TEPCO that all is well, which is a corporation. They're not a decommission authority. They're not a nuclear builder. They're just an operator. Right? And so they have no rights to be in charge. They were nationalized originally. But when you look at the building up close, clearly there's nothing left. And just because you put a cover over it and you leave all this debris outside because it's a nuclear wasteland, you can't clean up a nuclear wasteland, see? The cover is exactly that. There's nothing inside there. Each of those panels are put there with a crane. They're held there by gravity. A collapse of the fuel pool or damage to the pool causing it to no longer hold water could quickly escalate into a major nationwide disaster. It would take only 2.3 hours for the pools to begin discharging substances, nuclear meltdown, if the cooling was knocked out. But the date on that is October 30th, but this building was gone. It's completely gone. There's nothing left. The fuel pools were at the top of the buildings, right there and over there. That's where the fuel pools are. And they were stuffed full of reactor cores because they don't have a repository for any nuclear worldwide, let alone Japan, right? So we got Ernie Gunnarsson. He's an expert. He worked for a company where they made the racks for the assemblies for the reactor cores in the fuel pools at the top of the buildings, like to your left, behind them. And he was rolled out as the expert for us.
Now, the division I ran built nuclear fuel racks for boiling water reactors exactly like Fukushima. And Unit 4 has always been my biggest concern.
She was a public...
If you watched our website...
Let me go backwards for a second. His wife was a spokesperson for the nuclear industry for 20 plus years. Pro-nuclear, right? Arnie made the assemblies for the fuel pools for 70 identical reactors in the United States. And if he doesn't know the fuel pool's gone, who would? Not the assemblies, but the racks that hold the assemblies.
If you watched our website, on the very first week of the accident, I was saying that if Unit 4 were to catch fire, you'd have to evacuate Tokyo.
Does that look like it caught fire to you? Does that look like it's destroyed to you? You should evacuate Tokyo. Ness said even a substantial crack could cause the pool to no longer hold water. Well, the pool was about 150 feet above this little stump, I guess you can call it. TEPCO has since put concrete support under the pools. So they're saying that they put cement concrete structure supports under the pool. And so, that's not the right one. That's the Geiger counter, Dana. Get it together. So we got a windstorm all day today. I was there working in almost 80 kilometer an hour winds, freezing cold. Stupid. We got it done though. I'll do it tomorrow too and put the studs back in the tire that we lost. So the fuel pool was up right here. That's the elevator, part of the elevator shaft. It ran all the way up here, which is over here. And they would lower the fuel down with this crane, down to the basement, where they would have a special truck take 50,000 ton or 50,000 pound cast of fuel across the street behind it to the common spent fuel pool. All right, we're getting somewhere now. So they put concrete support under the pool. Now here's Arnie Gunnison. This video of Arnie, I put it in the fuel pool of reactor 4. And he's going to tell you the same story, that they went in and put supports under the fuel pool that doesn't exist.
Unit 4 was damaged twice. It was damaged by all of the earthquakes that occurred, and it was also damaged by a series of explosions over the first week or two of the accident. So the building is structurally weakened. Now, Tokyo Electric's acknowledged that. They went in May and June of last year. This is more than a year ago, and put an enormous number of extra structural supports directly under the fuel pool to keep the bottom of the pool from breaking through.
So what is he talking about when the building doesn't even exist? This is how crazy the industry actually is, right? Arnie Gunnison, Helen Callicott, and Christopher Busby were rolled out as the so-called anti-nuclear academics, right? They laugh about it if you call them anti-nuclear, by the way. And their job was to feed you. You notice how polite and how calm and measured it is when he's talking? It's meant to suck you in, and I get a little bit agitated, so people run over to him. Well, like he seems like a nice guy. He's got a suit on and tie on. And Helen Callicott got 14 anti-nuclear books, for goodness sakes. And just hang on, I'll play one of her videos to see if that... Because that's pretty powerful. She got 14 anti-nuclear best-selling books. So she would seem like the person to go to, right? Actor 4... I'll play the short version tonight. So this was the only time she was challenged, and she was asked, does the building look like this, or does it look like that? And she says, it looks like that. But how can it look like that when it looks like that? Because it's a nuclear meltdown. You can't just fix it and then say, like if I burn your house down and all your possessions, you're on vacation. And when you come back, I built a house identical to yours, for instance. You know it's not the original house. You'll know it. All your stuff is gone too, right? But you can't do that with a nuclear meltdown. You just can't come in and replace it, right? So let me put the headphones on. This is really short. This is Dr. Helen Callicott, and she done this in hundreds of interviews, by the way.
Let me ask you this. You've said that if the spent fuel pool in number 4 collapses, that you would evacuate your family from Boston. Do you think we would ever know the truth of what's going on there? And the reason I ask is because we've seen coverage in the national news media here in the United States from ABC News and others that take video cameras in, saying that they're being given exclusive access to number 4 in the removal of the fuel rods, which is said to have begun. And what we see in the video being shared here in America is a pristine interior building. It doesn't look like a building in which the top blew off in a hydrogen explosion.
The Japanese are very tidy people, and they have, by robot control and by human beings, removed the debris from the top of Building 4, and it does look pristine.
They buy humans, buy robots are humans, and buy humans are humans. She's insane to say something like that, by the way. And that's not her. Like she done all kinds of interviews claiming they got the fuel out of the pools in a building that doesn't even exist. Here she is talking about reactor 3. Let's just she's done this interview over and over. This one, I think, was Talking Stick TV.
And especially building 3 is very fragile. It's still got a huge cooling pool on its roof, protected by nothing. The molten core has melted its way down onto the concrete of the containment vessel, but maybe into the earth. And if that collapsed, there would be a nuclear inferno.
If that collapses, well, the building blew up. It ejected the reactor core and the fuel pools out of the building. She's done this interview hundreds of times, where she come out and pretended that it wasn't gone. So Arnie Gunnarsson repeatedly lied about reactor fuel pools, and so did Helen Caldicott. So if that's not concerning, I don't know what is. If that's not horrifying, what is? And how come it's not a crime to do what they're doing? This industry is determined to exterminate everything, and a nuclear meltdown is the best way to do it. You can't see it or smell it or hear it or feel it or taste it or touch it or pick it up or throw rocks at it or perceive it. TEPCO has since put concrete supports under the pool in an attempt to compensate for the damage and loss of other supporting systems in the buildings. Other supporting systems. Well, the building doesn't even exist. Dana, you're a lawyer, Dana. Arnie Gunnarsson's a wonderful person. Helen Caldicott's wonderful. They would never lie to anybody. I've been attacked over and over like that. I'd rather listen to Arnie. He's nice. He got a suit and a tie on, Dana. I don't know how many times I've heard that statement. They're like, shut up. It is estimated in 2014, before they can begin removing the fuel from the pool, 2014 no less. It currently holds 204 new fuel assemblies recently removed from the reactor as part of a 1,331 total assemblies in the pool. New assemblies. Like, what are you talking about? Why would you even mention that when you got 1,300 used assemblies, which are just as volatile as a brand new reactor? You only use about 3% of the fuel's energy on top of that, and it's not even that. Like it's that's the wrong way to frame it. So the fuel could probably, like, if it didn't have certain problems, could probably last hundreds of years because it takes so long to go through. The material is it's a breeder. It's producing, once it goes through a chain reaction, it's splitting atoms forever, see? But the problem with the fuel is, and it has this, it's a very complicated process to get it into a rod, and the rods are coated with zirconium. And zirconium, of course, if it's exposed to oxygen, will detonate, explode, burn at 1800 degrees immediately. And that'll boil all the water off in the pool. It'll ignite. The fuel pellets, which are also covered in zirconium cladding, and they'll burn at 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures. That will evaporate all the water in the pool in just a few minutes. It's a nuclear inferno. And that's why you see the pictures we see, right? Let me go back here for 1 second. That's like, there's 4 reactors that lost everything. At the top of each of the buildings were 8 reactor cores in each building, and 2 fuel pools at the top of each of the building of the 4 buildings. You know, they blew up, right? And that plume model over there is only 26 days of radioactive fallout. All the models are pretty symmetrical. A Yale professor, the least trustworthy people on the planet now, is a professor. Nothing like this has ever been attempted. All the humanity. And what year was this? 2013. All of humanity will be threatened for thousands of years if the rods in unit, and Arnie Gunnarsson used to say, like a crushed pack of sugar, like a crushed pack of sugar. In the Unit 4 fuel pool touch and have a nuclear reaction during removal process. TEPCO says, not clear if fuel is already damaged. But when you look at these buildings, these are 2013 pictures. There is no fuel pool. When you look at the evidence that they were actually ejected out of the buildings, when you understand the very basic foundation that the fuel pools are at the top of the buildings, there is no top to the buildings. You don't really got to be a genius to come up with a proper conclusion, right? So when they start, like they talk about, it's really interesting how they framed this particular sentence, right? It currently holds 204 new fuel assemblies, and there's 1,300. So what's worse, like a used assembly, a new assembly? If I can walk right past it, if it's out in the oxygen, it's not going to catch fire. It's not splitting atoms. It's not gone to a chain reaction yet. It doesn't matter. But if you've got used assembly there and try to walk past it, I'll drop dead. My organs will melt. And I'll squat down, drop my pants, and excrete my organs because they're melting, and I'll probably either stay there and die or fall over on my side and die. I'm not trying to be gross. I'm telling you what happened to people. And when you look at what's left of Reactor 3, after they clean it up with the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society and the immigrants who don't speak the language, when you look at what's left of the building, so they put this contraption over it. They built a frame around it because it can't hold any weight, right? There's nothing left there. It should have been raised all the way to the ground. But what they done was they left it there. They built this contraption over it. They put a cover on that, but you can see it right here, right? And you see these kind of little framing? They're meant to cover up the holes. They're covering up those holes at the top of the buildings, right? So here's a takeaway picture. And I got these from that one picture where I was able to zoom in. And like it's a really long shot. I think this is the picture. Yeah, that's the picture there where I'm able to zoom right in. There was a couple of them, rather. Those pictures. We never ever... And after that, you can never download pictures from Japanese media sites. At least I can't anyway. So put the contraption over it. They built it off-site and put it there with a crane. You can't physically go in there or go near it. And then they claimed that they were in there getting the fuel out of the pool. Simply not true, right? And then look at both sides. Look at the damage. So that damage you're looking at, those holes you're looking at, are basically those holes up there, right? But then when you put that there, then now you got the height up to around 170 feet above the ground. Because like they built the whole frame there, right? And to hold everything up. There is nothing left. We know that because that picture, or even that picture, or this picture, or even this picture of the explosion. Every academic on the planet would have looked at that and understood that the buildings were gone. This is not an opinion. This is not a conjecture. This is not some little thought at the top of my head. This is the reality. And these particular shows, like this type of show here, is the really important shows. These are actually the important shows. Because you're getting the luxury of hindsight. And yeah, okay, let's go to some of those pictures from today. Jesus, just looking at it makes me shake. Miserable and cold. Not too bad though, right? It's a job I can do, so it's better for me to do it than it is to pay someone to do it because I could do it. It's when you can't do it. That's when you get scared because you know they're going to rob you at the garage, right? So I only got half the caliper there. Let me play the video. Let me play the video of the other side because I couldn't believe it when I took the cover off. Because I took it for a test run, I could hear this knocking, and I was like, "What the hell is it?" I thought I fixed it because I knew the caliper had a torn boot, and it was the outside caliper because I had just changed the brakes and the chummies on both sides, right? Well, look at that, cracked right off. That's insane, eh? So it cracked off 4 of them. But I can't get the video. I gotta reformat the camera that I'm using. But I can play it on my laptop. So let's play it on my laptop right quick here. And maybe that'll make more sense. This one here. I'm going to get it out of the way. I got to put my headphones on though so I can check the audio for you. It's only 1 minute. But talk about the shock that I had when I seen this. I had the camera today. Watch this. So that's the passenger side. Look at this. I sheared off 4 of them. That's crazy. That's still crazy. I sheared off 4. It happens. 2 left to hold the truck up. I jacked it up and they're holding steady. If I had went on the highway, I would have died or got seriously hurt. Okay, well now we know what the problem is. And so I got the caliper on the other side, the passenger driver's side changed. Yep. So I got an extractor kit for these. I just got to pick up new studs. I got to pick up new studs. Get them out.
Yeah. And you went to screw all of them down to get them out, right?
No, actually I'm lucky. I looked it up. I could do it myself, no problem. Tomorrow's going to be minus 14 wind chill, but isn't that a horrible job? So I'll do it. Because if I don't do it tomorrow, we're going to get brutal snow tomorrow night. So I'm happy that I can do it. I'm happy I found it. Now, I don't know. Now, I asked him when I went up and picked up the studs today for the replacement. I asked him, was that unusual, right? And he said, well, I have seen it before. He said he's seen up to 8 of them get sheared off. My tires hold 6, right? One of them was saying that if you're removing the tire on and off a lot, because I'm using an impact wrench, I could have easily weakened them, over torqued them. And because they were weak, once one sheared off, another couple would have sheared off. And it happened when I was coming out of the city. I was probably about 20 minutes out of the city when it happened to me. So it's not like someone used an impact gun when I was in a shop or something and gave them over torqued them, right? Because they would have sheared off. Some of them would have sheared off, and you would have heard that knocking of them beating around inside the cover, because there's a cover goes over, and they were banging into it. And the faster you go, the more. If you go fast enough, it would stop banging because of centrifugal forces, right? Holy crap! I had done the caliper, I done half the caliper, and I was kind of worried about that because I wasn't sure if it was going to work. It worked perfect, and I had a problem bleeding the brakes. I had to bleed them from the master cylinder first, right? Get it started there, and then I got it to start. I actually used a vacuum pump to make it work over the bleeder valve. It's all good. We got it working. Who cares? But thank goodness I checked that tire, the other front tire. I jacked it up. So what I got to do is I got to jack up both tires off the ground tomorrow, block up the wheels, so I can spin it in order to knock out the stumps that are left, and I just want I like showing you that stuff because I don't really show you a lot. I'm busy every friggin' day. Every day I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to build up a tolerance because 2 years ago I had a serious heart attack that almost finished me, right? And so theoretically I shouldn't be here. I need to put 7 stents into me. And they had flown in a doctor and nurses to do the surgery on me. Nobody was allowed to touch me, apparently. And because the local doctors in the city said they weren't allowed to operate on me, but a team had just flown in. They would be there in about 10 minutes, and they were going to do the surgery. And they were all business. Typically, they only give you 1 or 2 stents, right? 7 is the record for the province. Nobody's ever gotten 7, apparently, in the province. I'm the only one that got 7 stints put in. So there is somebody out there cares and sent in a very special team. And I mean, I'm awake during all of this, and these people were all business. There was all business. There was no talking outside of technical, and it was all business. And there was somebody paying attention to me the entire time. They just stood there and they were staring right at me the entire time. And they weren't like a hard looking or something like that. It was a young nurse, but they were watching everything about me to make sure that I was comfortable and all this other stuff. It was the real deal. And I knew, right? Not only that, an hour later, I got up and walked. I would have died that day if they didn't show up and do it to me. I was 21 days in intensive care, right? In the ICU. I was in bad shape. Every day you're fading a bit more. And that last couple of days I had gave up. I was like, that's what she wrote for me, I guess. There was nothing I can do about it. There's nothing, when you're that sick and you're that weak, there's nothing you can do about it. That's life. That's the cards you dealt, right? All right. But that's... Well, let me play that other video because that's a better shot of the caliper. It's only a 5-second video, I think, or something. But let's play it for kicks. No sense taking videos if you...
So that's the passenger side.
Or no, that's the wrong one. Hang on.
Look at this. I share. Alright.
I thought I had a better shot of the caliper there. Alrighty. Let me check one more time here. I was hoping James had another song, but he's probably burnt out himself. You see, James donated $700 last night. My goodness! So I got a lot of stuff I got to order in, which is a pretty big deal. I'm going to be a little bit cautious just in case I don't resolve what I got problems. But we can start ordering in a bunch of parts we need. Palmer James has got so many amazing songs there. And Dr. Sternglass, I'm going to play that video, Dr. Sternglass, I think, for the closing show tonight. Dr. Sternglass was one of the first academics to quantify massive radioactive fallout. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you make it this far. And we got 30 thumbs up. That's pretty cool. Try to give us 2 more before the song's over on the poll. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. You have a great day. Tomorrow, hugs for everybody. Extra hugs for James. Thank you, my friends, so much. We'll see everybody on the next show now. Take care, folks.
Dr. Sternglass knew the risk. A silent war, invisible twist. From the fallout clouds to the gamma rays, he saw the truth in a poisoned haze. They laughed him off, they turned away, but the radiation never fades away. Dr. Sternglass, can you hear us now? We ignored the warnings, don't know how. We breathe it in, it's in the breeze. The slow decay brings us to our knees. In the quiet towns where secrets seep, the silent burn beneath our feet. Sternglass warned as the world moved on, but in the ground the danger's drawn. The truth he spoke, buried deep, as fallout spreads while the children sleeps away. Dr. Sternglass, can you hear us now? We ignored the warnings, don't know how. We breathe it in, it's in the breeze. The slow decay brings us to our knees. From Chernobyl's dust to Fukushima's tide, he showed the path where sickness hides. The rivers glow, the soil turned black, but the suits keep pushing, won't look back. The numbers grow, the cancer spreads, the media shrugs, the science dead. You can't feel it, can't see the burn, but Sternglass knew it's our turn. Radiation crawling through the land, while they cash in with bloodstained hands. It's in the rain, it's in the sea, it's creeping slow, too blind to see. They sealed the leaks, but it's too late. The winds have carried our poisoned fate. Babies born to a world unknown, toxic dust in the blood and bone. You told the truth, but no one stayed to listen to the mess they made. The fallout's here, in every breath. You built a future fueled by death. The Sternglass green, the warning clear, but they turned away, ignored the fear. Now the land's too sick to heal. Stay consumed, a small big deal.
in the soil.